Okay, so let's talk about some other features that are in this software. Um, we have probe settings, so we can probe down. This is probably the most common one that you'll use. Um, but you can also change. You can also probe plus or minus both X and Y and Z, and you can also stop on contact or on disconnect, depending on how you want to set how you want to do that. Or you can check this box temporarily to disable all this, and it'll just basically use the speed and the max distance, and when it actually contacts, then it will just stop the machine and it won't actually move. And the reason you might want to do that is to measure something. For instance, if you want to find the center of a circle, you could probe into the edge of a circle. I normally use a piece of aluminum duct tape to do this. But you'll basically put a piece of aluminum duct tape on the edge of a circle, put the clip wire on that, and then allow the bits to hit the side of the circle. You have to do that 3 points, A, B, and C, and then it'll actually go to the center of that circle. So you could use that probe to actually find the center of a circle as long as it's in measure only mode, because in measure only mode it will stop on contact, and at that point you can click on point A, which will set point A. Then you can go ahead and probe, move a little bit further around the circle, and then hit point B, and then move a little bit further around the circle, and then hit point C. And once you hit the 3 points, then it'll find the center of the circle. You need to hit 3 separate points on the circle. The further apart the points are, the better, but I've had pretty accurate success even if they were an inch apart on something as large as a 5-gallon bucket lid. So just so you know that that can be done. Um, this is where you can add macros, and the macros you can basically just put in any G code that you want in here. You can give it a short name, a description, and then the G code, whatever G code you want. You can just you know G G0 X 0 Y0 G0 Z0. So this would be go to X Y Z 0 would be our name, and we're basically going to XYZ 0 Z last. That way you know that it goes to Z last, basically. So it'll actually, it won't change the position of Z until it gets to the XY 0, and then the Z will go to 0. So that could be a macro, and then you could just run this macro anytime you wanted to. So, but I'm not going to run it just yet because I'm not sure where the top of Z is right now on this machine, because I just connected to it and I put a new piece of wood in there just for testing purposes. So I don't want to run into anything, so I'm not going to actually run that just yet. All right, so the point name, this over here allows you to save points, and point A and point B are actually kind of special because point A and point B refer to the points A and B here. So if you notice, point A is 0.003 and 0.003 for Y and Z for 0 for Z, and then point B is those numbers. Okay, so anytime you need to update those, you can update those. Like if you have point A, and you would basically move the machine to where you want, like you'd actually move the machine where you wanted point A to be first before you do this. So if I were to move the machine all the way over here, Okay, so we're moving the machine, and let's say we want a new point A to be over here somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to put this down here to almost touching the wood, pretty close. Alright, so I'm going to call that point A. Oh, I was typing, sorry about that. One thing I can do is actually just in the settings, disable this. This will disable any USB devices from being able to type in a box. So let me show you that. So I'm in the box right now, and I can type with my keyboard, but the number pad that I'm using, which is an external USB number pad, it no longer types in there. Even when I push the plus and minuses, it no longer types in there. So, alright, so that's pretty much that. And let's say that this is point A, so I'm going to put that with my keyboard and say add WCS point. Okay, now when I did, it updated A to have that new point in there. See? But I don't have to do that. I can do that on my keypad actually. So on the keys, you just double tap on my mode button, which is the period. So you double tap that, it goes to the question mark over here for the mode. And then from the question mark of the mode, you can push 2 to go into set point. And then we set point as A. And wherever it is currently, that will be the new point A. And then we can escape this mode. I'll move right and back a little bit. Okay, and from there I'm going to set point B. So just double tap this again, and then 2 for point save mode, and 2 for point B. Okay, now you'll see on the screen it updated to point B over here. One thing to note is always remember it to get back out of the save mode. I've accidentally messed up a few things because I didn't get out of the save mode. I might change it so that after you set the first point, it just comes out of save mode automatically. I think that would be the better solution. So I'm going to fix that real quick in the software. In the meantime, let me get out of that. Right. So we have point A and point B, very simple. And those point A and point B determine the lower left and the upper right point of any box or rectangle. So you can use that to surface something, to level something, to do what you want to do. And based on the percent diameter overlap and based on how large your bit is, and you can put bits larger than 1/4 inch because you can have a 1/2 inch, or what I use is this this one here, which I think is 1 1/4. Let's see if you can see it here on the screen better. This is a resurfacing bit that I use. It's expensive, but it's well worth the investment if you resurface things. So this is a large resurfacing bit. I think it's 1 1/4 inch. So if you do 1 1/4 inch and you do like maybe a 10% overlap, then you can really resurface something very quickly. Alright, so that's just to give you an idea of how you can resurface something very quickly. With the generator that I have, you don't have to draw anything anymore. So really, all you would do is you would use your point A and point B, as you define them, and you would do a pocket cut because a pocket cut will actually level the whole surface. And then you would go ahead and generate the G code. And this here, you'll notice this, it does inside, online, and outside the box. So depending on how you want your points set up, this will determine, if you look over here, it determines where the bit is when it actually draws the box. So online means exactly at point A is where the bottom corner of the box will be. And that will actually be a little bit overcut on the corner because of the size of the bit. So if the center of the bit is here, that's point A, and the bit might be a 1/2 inch wide, so that 1/2 inch will actually be the outer edge. It could be a 1/4 inch bigger than you wanted it to be. And if that's the case, then you would use inside the box, because that will compensate for the drill bit diameter to make point A the lower left point of where that bit is for the most part. And then the same is true for outside the box. Outside the box would compensate for the bit the other way, allowing you to go outside of a box area. So it compensates for the bit diameter in that way. Circle, you have the same thing. You can also do pocket cuts. The circle is great if you wanted to make a sign or something like that, or a plaque. You could use circles, very simple to do. Slots, these are great for just cutting a simple slot in a board. I used them to cut these slots here so that I could mount things in here. You can just define how wide you want it. If you make the slot the same width as the diameter of the bit, then it'll only be a single pass each Z depth. So it'll go Z down and then across, and then Z down again, across back, and Z down again, and across back. If you make it wider than the bit, when you specify here in the final width of slot, if you make that wider than the actual bit, then it will go ahead and make it a wider slot by going around kind of like almost like a circle, but it's more of a square slot. And you can make the slots at any angle that you want as well, because you just define point A and point B, and it'll make the slot in that angle. The drill, this is very simple. It goes ahead and does the drill up and down with the pecking motion. You can define arrays, which makes it very fast to make, a project that requires lots of holes. The multi-point allows you to go ahead and run a sequence where you would define points. So if I wanted to make a star or an octagon, let's say, I could just move the machine to where I wanted to and add that to the point. It's great for templates. So if you had a template of a star or an octagon, you could put the template on the workpiece and actually just move the bit until it contacts it all the way around. And then you could go ahead and generate that G code, and it will go ahead and cut that out however deep you need it to be. You can set your depth here, and this is the depth per pass for the bit. Also, this option here, the used first location to close, that simply means that if you were drawing the star, you would work all the way around until you got to here. Let's say you started here, you would work all the way around until you got to here, and then you would stop. That would be the last location in this box, but it will automatically move the bit from that location to where you started, so that you're exactly where you started, without having to try to eyeball it again. So that's a cool feature. And then from there, let's talk about these. So you can set point A from in here. You can set it dynamically with the keypad, which is what I normally do, or you could also just jog the machine if you wanted to. Let me raise the Z up a little bit. Alright, so if I wanted to jog the machine here with the mouse, the slow way, I could go ahead and jog the machine around to where I wanted, and then from that point I would go ahead and click use current position, and that will actually set point A to that current position. So that's one more way that you can set these point A and point B, is to actually manually jog it and then click use point A or use current position and use current position. On the engraving text screen, this allows you to engrave text, and I'm going to include some various fonts that I found that make fairly nice cuts. So you'll basically be able to go ahead and define this. And one cool thing that you can do is actually define the actual width. So when you come in here, these are going to be defaulted to 1. And if you wanted to make it different as far as the X and the Y goes, all of these are in millimeters. So let's say I wanted 150 millimeters wide, right? And more like 40 millimeters tall. Then I could go ahead and click rescale, and that will actually build these scale numbers for you so that it comes out exactly the size that you want. Now, one other thing to note is that The default is in the upper left hand corner because that is the way fonts are actually defined. So if you wanted to center this, which is probably the best way to engrave text if you think about it, because you're probably on some odd shaped workplace and you want the text to kind of be in the center of it. So you would move the, the, the machine to where the center is and set that as 0, and then you would go ahead and use centered text. Now you'll notice that when I changed this to centered, these went a little bit different than the way they were, and that's because there's actually padding around some of the fonts. So we can fix that. All we have to do is just type this in again. So 150 by 40, and then rescale. Alright, so it gets pretty close. You'll notice sometimes it doesn't go exact, and that's okay. It's just a rounding issue because the scale sometimes is too far out to get the exact number, but it should be so close that you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference anyways. One other thing that you can do is actually rotate, and when you rotate, negative rotates the right hand portion up, and positive rotates the right hand portion down. Okay, that's the best way I can describe that. So let's rotate it up by 10 degrees so that you get an idea what that looks like. Alright, and then if you want to see what that's going to actually kind of look like, this is more or less just drawn text, but that doesn't necessarily make a representation of what these scales look like. So to make that representation, it's best to preview, and this is a better representation of what the font will look like when you carve it, because this is actually using the G code and generating it on the fly. So that's the guesstimator as far as what the G code goes. And then when you're done, of course, you can save this, and you can either send it now or add it to the project or preview it again. And you can also click File, Save, and this will let you put it anywhere you want, you know, wherever you want to put the file. Let's go ahead and add it to a project just so you get an idea. And it'll ask for a step name, and we'll just call this hello. Okay. Alright, now it's added to the project, and what that does is on our projects window on the main screen, it adds this little guy down here. So now we have hello down there. Oh, one more thing to note is on the text generator, this right here, this depth, this is how deep the cut is going to be with your engraving bit. Alright, or whatever bit you're using. Actually, it doesn't really care which bit you're using. This offset X and Y allows you to offset the starting point of the text. So if you wanted to use the lower left and you wanted it to be, you know, 10 millimeters right and let's say 5 millimeters from the bottom, then when you build this again, you'll see in the preview here, X and Y 0 is here, and then it goes up that distance over here. This grid is not necessarily to any kind of scale, so it's not a true representation of how many millimeters it is, so you can't really tell by that, but you can see that we said 5, what did we say? We said 5 and 10, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so 5, if you look at this, 5 is this way and 10 is this way, and if you think about it, it's probably pretty close, because this is like 1 unit, let's say, and then this would be double that unit. So it's pretty close to the 5 and 10. I'm pretty sure that would be accurate. Okay, so that's what you can do with the engraving. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and shut this video down because this is just really a brief overview video, and I hope that gives you a simple idea of what you can do with this new software. One more thing I forgot to mention. You have different workspaces, and if you have different places where you mount your work, you can actually use them. So the default is G54, but you have all these extra ones, all the way up to 59. Now, what that means is that you could have a 0 on G54 and a different 0 on G55 and a different 0 on G56. And you'll notice that when I changed it from G55, this is where it thinks the machine is, versus this is where it thinks the machine is. So they're different, right? And you can set them separately. So if I'm in this work coordinate system, I can set the zeros here, and then I could switch to this work coordinate system and set those zeros there. So let's zero these out here. So these are zeros on G55, and G54, they're not zeros. They're 105 and 58, okay? And one last thing to note is that these, from G54 to G59, are all in the EEPROM on the controller board. So they're stored, so even if you power the machine off and power it back on, the zero will still be exactly the same for all of those workspaces. G92 is different. G92 is an offset from the current work position. So, and it is memory resident only, and it is not permanent. So that allows you to set a quick zero without actually changing the zero of the work coordinate system. So let's demonstrate that. So I'm in G54, which is 105.58. Okay, I'm going to change to G92, and I'm going to set 0. Okay, now 0 here is where I'm at. Okay, when I go to G54, I'm at 0. If I go to G55, that offset now is different. You'll see how the offset changes. That offset is because the G92 is the offset now. So it determines the offset compared to the coordinate in that work coordinate system. So you got to be careful with it. But the cool thing is you can just click this to clear the G92, and that gets rid of the offset. So regardless of which one you're in here, you'll have the offset could mean a different thing. So be very careful about that. But when you're here and you did something, you're already done with that offset, whatever you needed to do there, you can go ahead and clear this, and that will clear the offset, and then it will return to the actual G54 work coordinate plane, and it'll have the same exact 0 as G54 had originally. Alright, so, and then on this side here, I think this is pretty much just about the end of this video. On this side here, this allows you to go ahead and send commands directly, and let me scroll to the end. Okay, so I sent this, and you can see all the settings that you from GRBL, and you could actually go ahead and copy and paste this up here and just hit enter, and it would go ahead and set those settings. And this is where it actually sends files. And when you open a file, it scans the file and it gives you an idea of how many lines it is, the X, Y, Z minimum and maximum. There's one thing that the minimum and maximum doesn't handle right now, which is radiuses of circles. So that's one thing it doesn't handle. I might find some way to fix that, but in the meantime, it should handle any other kind of shapes, lines, points that are within the file. It's just not going to handle the radius of a circle being outside of that file. This file has circles, so it doesn't actually show the max X, because all of the radius of the circle is on the Y. So anyways, that's something to note. And then over here, this is emergency stop. That will pretty much kill everything. This is a soft kill button, a clear error, and a disconnect button. I'm going to show you one other cool thing really quick about this software. I can actually disconnect from the machine, right? You'll notice that it's disconnected now, okay? I can actually close the software and open it back up, right? And then connect again. And as long as I didn't stop the machine while it was doing something, or power the machine off, or unplug the USB port, then the machine itself will not have to be rehomed. My software will actually just connect to it exactly as is, and it will not need to be rehomed. So that's a cool feature, and it's something that I couldn't do with some of the other softwares that I played with. So really nice feature. just something to keep in mind. And these, when you set this 0, one other thing I want to say about these work positions, when you set these zeros, you can actually change the offset. What you might want to do that for is if you wanted to, if you know that you're at a 0 point, but that 0 point is maybe an inch from where you actually want it to be. Like, let's say you're at the edge of a material, but you want to make a box that's exactly 1 inch inside that material. So then you could put an offset in here, and that offset is in millimeters. So if you put 25.4 in the offset, and then you set that to Y, okay? That Y now is going to, if you go to Y0 now, it'll be 1 inch up from where the current position is. But remember to put this back to 0 so you don't mess up, trying to 0 and it doesn't actually 0 something. So I'll show you that here. I'm going to go to XY0 now that I set the Y to 1 inch. So it'll actually, the machine will move that way 1 inch. Here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. It went the other way 1 inch. The reason it went the other way 1 inch is because I'm at 1 inch out. If I wanted the offset to go the other way, then what I would set the Y to would be negative 25.4. So when you do that, that will, the negative, I know that when you go Y, you go positive to the back of the machine, but what we're actually doing is setting the 0 point, and the 0 point would mean that we're here and the current position is in the negative from that 0 point. I hope that makes sense. So the 0 is here and we're negative from the 0 at this point, and that's why we would set it as a negative. So now that it's negative, I'll go ahead and go to 0 again, and you'll see it moves in that direction by 1 inch. Okay? Alright, that's it for this tutorial, and I hope that helps somebody get an idea of what the software is capable of.